Greetings mod lovers across the universe, DW here, along with no one else, because this is Mod Explaining. In this video I'm going to be explaining about variables in Lua. Now you're probably wondering, but DW, you've already explained about variables. Yes, but not in Lua. Now, before I begin, there is something I actually want to talk about. Now, you know the new guy I've actually started watching in order to find out information in computercraft? Apparently I've watched his video about explaining variables, which is the information I've gotten right now. Apparently he ends up explaining variables in a different way that I have done. So, if you feel like the way I explain variables is a bit more complicated or a bit less hard to understand, then make sure to check out his video in the description below. That way you can end up seeing if it's less or more hard to understand than the way I explain things. But without further ado, let's begin. Okay. Now, as I've shown you in the past, variables end up holding numbers. Now, if we end up saying q equals 4, if we end up typing down q, it'll come out as 4. Also, while I remember this, you notice how we're working on the computer? Last time I ended up showing you that usually turtles are supposed to have the Lua folder, which they are. But, seeing that the computer is technically all of its programming and folders and code is technically all of the stuff in the turtles, as in all of the turtles stuff in the computer, which means they should have the same programs, code, and folders. But enough of that. Now, not only can variables hold numbers, they can end up holding calculations. Now, for instance, if I end up putting add 20, it'll come out as 40, as you can see here. Now, if we all know our maths perfectly, not only is there that, now, not only can it end up doing add, it can end up doing times as well, but you're all probably thinking, of course it can end up doing times and minus and divide, but can it do more than just, can it do more than just one calculation? Well, it can. Now, if I end up doing this, now, as you can see here, I ended up putting 3 times and then whatever number's going to come out of 5 add 4, which we should all know to be 9. So, when I end up typing this out, 3 times 9 should be 27. Let's see. And it is 27, as I said before. Now, hold on here. Let's see here. Whoops, wrong button. If I end up doing this, I'm just going to quickly do this. Now, as you've seen here, I ended up setting it back to 4. The variable is now the value of 4. But what if you wanted to end up changing the value of q, or be it the variable? And I'm not just talking about doing something lazy like this, and then it'll just become 7. No, I mean ended up boosting up or something like that. Well, hold on. If we end up doing q add 2, it'll end up adding 2 to the value of q, that rhymed, which is 4, which means it should become 6, as you can see here. Now, obviously, you can do this more than once. For instance, hold on. And now, it became 7 because we added one number to it. Now, hold on. You can also end up doing another calculation instead of just add, as I've shown you before. Now, if I end up doing times 2. Now, the value of q at the moment is 7, so it'll be 7 times 2, which, if you don't know your maths, should be 14. Let's see. Yep, it's now 14. So basically, you can end up changing the value of q by adding numbers, timesing numbers, taking away numbers. You get the picture. I could go into detail a lot about this, but I'm not going to. Not only can you end up doing calculations and numbers into variables, you can also end up doing, words. Now, for instance, pardon me, If we end up doing, let's see here. Okay, okay. Oops, I did not mean that to be a capital M. Okay, so now if I end up typing down I, it should come out as I'm. See, and as you can see here. Also, it can end up doing, you can end up doing more than one. So if I end up putting D, and I think you all know what I'm going to type. Yep. Oh, what the hell? Why is that? Okay, don't know why that was there. Just ignoring that. Okay, and now if I type down the D, it'll come out as DW13. But what if you wanted to end up combining both of these together? Well, there's a way to do that. If I end up putting ID, then, okay, let's see here, dot, and then D. Now if I end up typing on ID, it comes up as I'm DW13. Now before we actually go on, usually I end up saying that you can end up typing out whatever you like. It doesn't have to be a certain letter or a certain word. Well, with this, there are actually certain letters you cannot use. Now, if I end up showing you, for instance, like, hold on. I'll do this, for example. Nerd. Okay. Now, it should end up coming up as I'm nerd. I should have put it as nerdy, or whatever. Now, I'm going to type IN. Oops. And then I'm going to type down I dot N. It comes up with an error. I don't know why it does that. I ended up testing it the first time I did this, and IN apparently does not work together. I've tried everything. I've tried non-capitals. I've tried. For some reason, it just doesn't work. I think in is part of another program, which is why it's kind of glitching out. But again, I'm not really sure. If anyone in the comments down below has any idea why it's doing this, make sure to tell me. That way I can end up telling my viewers in the future. Then I'm a bit curious. But moving on. Now, you're probably wondering, how come they're combined together? Well, that's because they don't have a space. What if you ended up wanting to make a space? And I'm not just talking about doing, hold on, this, which is, again, a bit lazy. You can end up putting in, hold on, ID equals I, that's 1. What the hell? dot. Oh, wait. Okay, dot, and D. And now when I type down ID, it should come up with I'm DW13, except with a space, which it has. So yeah, if you want to end up doing it a really complicated way, instead of just doing, once again, whoops, this, then you can. But enough of that. Also, if you wanted to end up printing this out, although I wonder why you would want to do that, because technically it already does print out, you end up putting print, and then these, and then ID, then it prints out I'm DW13, and you can tell it does that because it has the number here. I'm still not sure why it does that. Again, if anyone in the comments knows why it ends up printing out a number as in the thing you're supposed to print out, make sure to tell me, because one, I kind of want to know how to stop that, if it's possible, and two, it'd be nice to tell the viewers, because at the moment I have no explanations for why it's doing that. But let's continue on. Okay, now I'm actually going to move on to Boolean logic. Now, you're all probably wondering what Boolean logic is. Basically, it's kind of a code where it ends up giving you the choice of either true or false. Now, for example, let me just do this. Okay, equals 4, and then I'm going to put, what is your, okay, it's this one, and then, there we go. And now, if I type down Q, okay, now as you've noticed here that I've ended up using these in the past. This is basically saying that 4 is lesser than 5, which we all know to be true. If I type this out, it'll come up as true, which it has. But, hold on, F equals, now we'll do the opposite. Now it's saying that 4 is greater than 5, which we all know to be not true, albeit false. So when I type down F, it'll come up as false, which once again it has. Now, just to make this a bit more interesting, I'm going to use D again, but instead of wanting to type out DW13, I'm going to do this. Hold on. Whoops, wrong button. Okay. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you the first Boolean logic, which is a code known as AND. Now, AND always ends up saying false whenever there's a choice of false. Now, you're probably wondering what that means. If I end up typing down D, it comes up as false because K ends up coming up as true and F ends up coming up as false. Now, with AND, whenever there's a choice of false, it ends up coming up with false. Now, let me show you. If I end up typing down true and true, it comes up as true. If I'm typing down false and true, coming up as false. True and false comes up as false, and now we have false and false, which comes up as false. Notice how the only one that did not come up as false was this one, but then again, it didn't actually have the choice of false because it was both true. Now, I'm actually going to show you the... Oh, instead of typing D, I'm going to type a B. Instead of showing you the... Hold on. Or... F. The next thing I'm going to show you is a Boolean logic OR, which is practically like AND, except it does the exact opposite. So basically, AND kept on giving the answer of false, OR is going to keep giving you the answer of true. Now, if we end up putting down B, it'll give us true, because there's true here, and it came up as true. For example, true, hold on, and, my god, I cannot spell AND, what the hell? Oh, true or false. I mean, true or true, what the hell's wrong with me today? True or false, okay, it was true, false or true, whoops, if I can spell, and finally, false or false, which came up as false. Now, once again, notice how most of these came up as true. The only one that did not come up as true was false and false, but then again, it didn't have the choice of true because it's all just false. Now, I'm going to show you something a bit cool. Now, if I put if D, then, hold on here, print, yes, and then, hold on, keep going, else, and then finally print, no, and then end. Okay. Now, as you can see here, I've ended up setting all of this up, so instead of it giving true or false, it'll give yes or no. Now, if it's false, then it'll give no. If it's true, then it'll give yes. Now, with D, if we remember, it ended up giving up false, so it should come up with no, which it did. Now, if we end up typing out all of this again, luckily I have a cheat for that. I love that button. I've ended up typing down this. It comes up with yes because B was true, as you can see there. Now I'm going to show you the last Boolean logic, which is not. So if I end up typing out not true, if I can type true, comes up as false. If I type not false, it comes up as true. Now let's make this a bit more complicated, or a bit more interesting, as I like to think. Okay, true. Alright, and now come up as true. But if we end up putting C equals not C, then it should come up as false. Because, how do I explain this? Basically, before it was true, now that I've said that it's not C, meaning that it's not true, it's going to become false. And once again, you can end up doing this again, meaning that it's going to become true. Now, that's all of the Boolean logic and all the variables that come to mind. So now I'm actually going to move on to some programming. Now, as usual, I'm going to say what I usually say. I'm only going to use the mining turtle. The rest of these turtles are just on for display. I thought I heard something. Oh, whatever. Oh, that's me walking. Sorry. Okay. So now I'm going to edit. Now, usually I end up typing out something involving DW. For once, I'm just going to type out moving test. Now, hold on. Now, if you remember from my last videos, I'm kind of a slow typer, so hold on to your hats, kids. Okay. Also, if you're easily bored by all of this because I'm a slow typer, then you can end up just skipping on with the video if you want. I wouldn't blame you, to be honest. Okay. Turtle dot forward. Turtle dot forward. My God. My God, they really need. Someone needs to teach me how to type faster. I need to. Imagine there's a typing class somewhere. That wouldn't surprise me. It's a big world. Why did I get rid of that? Turtle forward level. Okay, and now I'm gonna do print used. Okay, and then dot capital S. Oh yeah, now I remember it. Notice how I'm ended up putting in capital S for start and a capital E for end. Yeah, they're gonna need to be capitals if you want this to work. If you don't want it to work, by all means, then not make them capitals. Oops. Fuel, and then end. Then dot. Fuel. Okay, and now we're done. Okay, so if I end up typing out, okay, if I save, now, whoops, hold on. Okay, so if I end up typing out this, it should move. But before we end up doing that, refuel. Now, if you remember from the past, this should end up, yep, taking away a bit of fuel. Okay, so now we can end up testing out. Oops. Oop. And now. Okay. Now notice it ended up moving 2 blocks forward, and it ended up coming up with use to fuel. So basically, what this program does, which I find a little bit cool, it ends up moving how many times you tell it to, because we ended up saying only 2 times turtle dot forward. It moved 2 times forward, and ends up telling you how much fuel you used. We moved 2 blocks forward, we used 2 bits of fuel. So, hold on. Oh, wait, hold on. Go back to doing the moonwalk. Okay. Now, hold on. So basically, if we ended up putting 5 or 4 or 3 turtle dot forward commands in here, it'll end up moving in that many times, and that's how much fuel will be used. Now that's all the code I actually have for this video from the guy I ended up watching to find out all this information. Now you're probably thinking, but DW, does that mean the video's over? No, does not mean the video's over. Like last time, I ended up sparing some of my spare time and ended up making my own little code, which I made all by myself. Now, hold on. So, hold on here. So, without further ado, I'm actually going to show you this bit of code I have made. Right, okay. Once again, if you feel like it's going to take a long time, which it most likely will, skip forward if you wish. Because it probably will. How many forward and put in? You're probably wondering what that means. It'll be explained at the end of this. Okay. Let's see. Put in. Okay. Read. If this feels like a bit familiar, that's because it's supposed to be. When I ended up making this code, I ended up making it of code I've used in the past, which it's kind of what I want you guys to do with the information I've given you in the past. To test around with this code, work with it, see what you can create, to be honest, like what I'm doing right now. Now, hold on. While obviously you're not going to create a perfect code that does all your chores for you, but you can at least test around with it. Who knows, the more you learn, the more you test around, the more you might find out some stuff that could help you in the future with this mod. Now hold on. Turtle dot drop, and I'm actually going to put a number in here, 1, and then turtle. Notice how I'm really fast at typing. Hold on. Typing turtle. That's because I've done it so many goddamn times. It's just become such a natural talent at this point. There are times where I end up typing it out the wrong way, which is why I kind of like to take things slow with my code. If you end up rushing too much, you end up typing out the wrong thing, and then you'll get problems, and you have to search through your code to see what the hell you've done wrong. And end and end. If you don't remember why we have end and end here, because we actually have 2 loops here, I believe they're called. Yeah, they're called loops. I remember now. Okay, so now if I end up typing out moving test, but before I actually do that, I need to set something out. I'll put it right here, and now I'll put this right here. Okay, so now if I end up typing moving test, it ends up asking you how many you want to move forward and put in. Once again, you're probably wondering what the hell that means. If I type out 8, okay, and as you can see, it ended up, so basically what this code does, if there's a block in front of it, it ends up just avoiding it, instead of just trying to break it as it usually does. Which, 1, is a bit cool, but also, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It also ended up moving how many blocks you wanted it to, even when there was a block in the way. But that's not all. Notice how there's 1 flower in here, or rose in this case. There were 13 roses, in this, but now there is only 12. Why the hell have I put it in there? Oops. Okay, anyway. So as you can see here, basically what this program does, it ends up moving how many times you want it to, as it usually does. But if there's a block in front of it, it ends up dropping, then turns left, moves forward, then turns right, and then keeps going. So basically, if you have a chest in front of you, that's what you want to do. Or that's what it'll do. If it has a block in front of it, it'll just probably throw it at it and end up picking it up. Or not picking it up, actually. Doesn't matter. Anyway, so basically, if you end up having loads of chests and you're too lazy to get the hell over there and pick them all up, you can end up getting this guy to do it for you. Again, not the perfect code, but in a way, it actually is very good. But that's all the code I actually have to show you guys. I hope you all enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe, make sure to leave a like. If you want to support this channel, make sure to send it to your friends, your cats, or your goldfish. And once again, make sure to check out the guy that I've watched in order to find out this information and see how he's explained it. So it's either better or worse the way I explained it. More complicated or less complicated than I explained it, so to speak. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.